This is the 14th lesson on measurement, and if you look at the background, it gives you a pretty good clue of what measurement we're talking about today. We're talking about clocks and measuring time, and specifically, we're going to be talking about the quarter hour. What in the world? A quarter of an hour. Oh, quarter. There's 4 quarters in a dollar. There's 4 quarters in a football game, or 4 quarters in basketball. So quarter of an hour, there must be something about fours on a clock. If that's what you're guessing, you're on the right track. Let's go on to the next screen, and we're going to just remind ourselves some things about clocks that we already know. Well, it looks like I left a few things here from before. I'm going to erase that and get started. On the left-hand side, I've got this big hand, and that one we remember is called the minute hand. And then on the right side, I've got this little short, fat hand. We remember that one is the hour hand. I'm going to start with that one first. And you recall, if it moves from one number, oops, I'm going to rotate here, one number to the next, that takes an hour for that to happen. So from 1 to 2 is 1 hour. From 2 to 3 is another hour. If I go 3 to 6, oh, how many hours would that be? Well, I can't start on the hour that the hand was pointed to. I count the next hour. Oh, that would be 1 hour to 4, another hour to 5, another hour to 6. So moving from one number to another with the hour hand, of course, takes 1 hour. Well, let's put that one aside, and let's get rid of those marks, and we're going to talk about the minute hand. Review things that you already know about the minute hand. If the minute hand moves from one number to the next, it's not an hour. Do you remember how long it takes for the minute hand to move from one number to the next? Well, it might be a good guess to say a minute, but you know what? I know that it doesn't take 12 minutes for that hand to get all the way around the clock. Do you remember how many minutes it takes for the minute hand to get all the way around the clock? Maybe you just want to jot that down on a piece of paper right now. And then when I reveal it, you'll go, oh yeah, that's right, I knew that. I'm going to just remind us that to get from 12 to the next, I'm going to put a little line there where the 12 is, and I'm going to put a couple more lines in between here. Let's see, that's 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3, 4. Oh, did you guess, or did you remember that it takes 5 minutes to get from one number to the next? Let's see, there's 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes from one number to the next. So if I took 5 minutes to get to the 1, how long would it take to get from 12 to the 2? 5 minutes. Oh, you know that one. And that would, of course, have been, let's see, 5 minutes to here. It would be 10 minutes to there. It'd be 15 minutes to here. And I'll just keep on going around. As you watch me do this, you're thinking, before I even say it, you can say it in your head. 35. Oh, you know what? I also know multiplication. 8 times 5 is 40. We're moving 5 minutes every number, so 9 times 5 is 45. 10 times 5 is 50. And remember the 11's fact, 11 times 5 is 55. And, oh, add 5 more minutes to that, and that would be 60 minutes. There are 60 minutes in an hour. And you remember, one of the first questions I had asked was, how long does it take for the minute hand to get all, whoops, I just moved my 60 instead of my minute hand here. Let me get that back. How long does it take for the minute hand to travel all the way around the clock? And you remembered that it was 60 minutes. Well, now that we've reminded ourselves that there are 60 minutes in 1 hour, just jot that down on the side here. You might want to jot that down on your piece of paper. We are talking about the quarter of an hour. Well, quarter means 4. So I'm going to divide this clock into 4 equal pieces. And notice I've taken the hands off. But just imagine you have a big pie, and you're going to cut it in half. First of all, you're serving some pie, and you've got some pretty big eaters, and so you're going to cut that pie into 4 pieces, or into quarters. So there's 1 quarter here, and it goes from 12 until the 3. And we've got another quarter here that goes from the 3 unto the 6, another quarter from 6 until the 9, and then the last quarter goes from the 9 unto the 12. How many minutes are there in each quarter? Well, let's start on the outside of our clock. If we count by 5s, starting with the 1, that would be 5, 10, 15. Oh, I see that already. There's 15 minutes in that first quarter. Well, there's also 15 minutes in this next quarter. There's another 15 minutes here, and of course, another 15 minutes here. Each quarter is 15 minutes. Now we're going to take a look at this clock using the hands back on it. I've erased some of the marks around the outside just to clear things up to make it a little bit easier to look at. You recall by looking at this clock, if the minute hand is on the 12 and the hour hand is pointing to one of the numbers, it is that number o'clock. So this clock is showing 2 o'clock. Next, we're going to move that minute hand so that it is a quarter of an hour past 2. Now you have to keep in mind too that as soon as you move the minute hand, that hour hand is also moving a little bit. And it's only going to move just a little bit because this minute hand we're moving only a quarter of an hour. And in a quarter of an hour, the hour hand is only moved a fourth of the way from 2 to 3. Anyway, what time does this clock show right now? Well, we knew that it was the hour of 2, and so the time shown on the clock, I'm going to write it down here in my digital scale, is 2:15. Now that's one way to write it, so I'm going to, or say it, 2:15. The hour, and then the minutes. It's 2:15. Another way to say it, though, since it's a quarter of the hour past 12, we can say that it is quarter past 2, because it was the hour of 2, but now it's a quarter past 2. So that's one way to say it. We've got 2:15. We can say quarter past 2, or we can also say quarter after 2. Quarter after 2. I don't say past very often. Some older type people, like my grandparents, might say past, but quarter past 2, quarter after 2, 2:15 are all ways to say this same time. Clean this up and go to the next section. Looking at our clock now all cleaned up, and we look at it again, we recognize that it says, once again, it's 2 o'clock, but we're going to move past the hour. And so I'm going to move that minute hand, and I'm going to go not quarter past, but another quarter. Don't forget that the hour hand is also moving. Now it's halfway between 2 and 3, so the hour hand points to that. And this clock now says that it is 2, we say the hour first, 2:30. So we write that in our digital clock over here, 2:30. And we can say it is 2:30. We can also say that it is half past 2. Notice that 2/4 is the same thing as a half. Half past 2. Remember when I cut that clock pie the first time, when I cut it like this before I put that other quarter mark in there, oh, I had a half. So notice that's half past 2, or of course another way to say that is 30 minutes after 2. 30 minutes after, oops, get the R in there, after 2. And our standard form is over here in our digital clock. So this is called the standard form. Standard form. If it's in the form of something from a digital clock, we call that the standard form. Okay. All right, let's go on to the next one. And now we're going to move 3/4 of the hour. Well, I'm going to put those lines back in. Here's where I had my halfway mark. I divided that into 4 to get quarters, and we're going to move that minute hand to 3/4 of an hour. There's 1/4 by the 3, there's 2/4 or a half by the 6, and the 3/4 is 9. Also remember that the hour hand is not staying still. It's moving too, ever so slowly. You know, half past the hour, it was halfway between 2 and 3. A quarter past the hour, it was a fourth of the way, back to half away. Now we're 3/4 of the way. It's not quite to 3 o'clock, but almost. It's got about 15, well, it has exactly 15 more minutes to go. The clock is like this. And now let's take a look and see what we would call this time. If it's 45 minutes past the hour, we can read the hour first as 2:45. We can say it is 2:45, 2:45. What in the world? Oh, I see. Because there's only a quarter hour yet to get to 3 o'clock. I notice that this hour hand here is going to be moving to 3. It's a quarter to 3. Well, that's interesting. And we can say it in standard form. We're going to write it over here again. Standard form is the digital form. Maybe we could say it that way too. Standard form is, well, we say the hour first, which is 2 o'clock, and how many minutes past 2 o'clock. We know on our scale at the 6 it's 30 minutes past, and at the 9 it was 45 minutes past. So standard form would be 2. Oops, I put an extra colon in there by mistake there. 2:45. Now we're going to practice figuring out how many minutes there are altogether. Why don't you write A, B, C, D, E on your paper? And to do that, I would maybe push pause on this recording so that you have time to do that when we can go on, and then you're ready. So push pause, write A, B, C, D, and E, and then push play again, and we'll be ready to move on. Okay, now we're ready to move on. And let's take a look at letter A. How many minutes are in 1 hour and 15 minutes? Well, I remember that 1 hour was 60 minutes, and I know that there's 15 more, so I'm just adding those two together. How much is 60 plus 15? And if you know, you can go ahead and write down your answer. You may also push pause so that you have time to think. I'm going to add the ones. 0 and 5 is 5, 6 and 1 is 7. So for letter A, the answer is 75 minutes. Don't forget your label. Go ahead and answer letter B. If you need to, push pause, figure out your answer, and then push play. I'm going to go ahead and give the answers for all of those after I read each one, and you can push pause each time if you want more time, if you want time to think, or if you're ready to go on, just keep on letting it run. Letter B, 1 hour and 15 minutes, 1 hour 45 minutes. I know there's 60 minutes in an hour, and I know that I'm adding 45 minutes more to that. 0 and 5 is 5, 6 and 4 is 10. So there are 105 minutes for letter B. Put my label on there. For letter C, 2 hours. I know that 1 hour is 60 minutes, so 2 hours must be 2 of those. 60 and 60. 0 and 0 is 0. 6 and 6 is 12. Oh, that's 120 minutes. Notice how neat and precise I'm trying to be here since this is mathematics. And of course, I'm going to be asking you to be neat and precise too. And I noticed yesterday on Peyton's paper, especially since he showed me, wow, that looked really good. And page 2, well done. Okay, letter D, 1 hour, 30 minutes. Again, an hour is 60 minutes. I'm going to add 30 to that. And some of you maybe can see that, oh, I just add 60 and 39. Oh, that's 90 minutes. How many minutes then in letter E, 2 hours? Oh, I already figured that one out. Here's 120. We'll have to add 15 minutes to that. So 2 hours plus 15 more. minutes. Okay, let's see. Oh, it looks like it's 135 minutes. All right, so let's go on and practice another concept with clocks and quarters of the hour. On your paper, would you draw 4 standard or digital displays? It's just a rectangle with a colon in the center, and I've got them in pink here, which isn't very easy to read. I'm just going to outline these again. I would also label these A, B, C, D. A rectangle with 2 colons. Hey, let me go back and put A on this one. Let's put B on this one so that we know which one we're talking about when we're doing these clocks. Here's letter C, rectangle. We don't need to draw the clocks. That was a mess on my colons here. My board's not so well lined up. Let's leave those colons in there. Okay, let's see here. Okay, and this one was letter C. My recording device here if I can, and this one I'm just going to retrace here, and that is letter D. I'll leave those 2 colons there so that I don't make a mess out of that. This is letter D. All right, I'll draw the hands on the clock, and you write down in your little standard displays or your digital clocks what time each clock is showing. So here's the first one. This is the minute hand, and this is the hour hand. What time is that showing? Write that in letter A. If you'd like more time, remember to push pause, and you can study that. Going on to letter B. Here is the minute hand, going to the 6, and here's the hour hand, halfway from 6 to 7. For letter C, we have the minute hand on 3. Oh, I didn't do that very well. I'm going to do that one. I want that one to go right to the 3, not above it. It's right on it there. So it goes right to 3. And the hour hand was on 6, but now it's just a little bit past that because it's moving along. So the minute hand and the hour hand. This hour hand is the fat one here. I'm going to fatten him up just a little bit so you know the difference here. Hours, hour hand. Okay, and then the last one, letter D, is minute hand and hour hand. Right underneath there, you can barely see it except that he's a fat guy, so we can see he's sticking out on either side of that hour hand. And put your time in your standard display box, your digital display box for each of those, A through D. All right, it's time for us to start our worksheet. Our worksheet is page number 105. And if we're looking in our textbook for more information on that, we know that you can look on page 286 and 287. Our lesson today was on the quarter hour. We reviewed knowing that there are 60 minutes in each hour. We talked about the quarter hour being 15 minutes of that, and that there were 4 quarter hours, of course. Here on the top is some more information for us to go back to. It talks about the standard form. It looks like a digital display, and we also know that there are different ways that you can use words to write that standard form. Here's another instance of the standard form and different ways that we can use words to write that. Standard form and words. Each of them all correct, but different ways to say the same thing. Let's take a look at the first set of instructions above number 1. It says, write each time in standard form. Oh, that's as if I were looking at a digital display. Here's the standard form. Again, remember when you're using standard form that we're going to be using numerals and they're separating the hour from the minutes with a colon. Don't forget, write neat and precise. Maybe you can even write it neater and more precisely than B can do. But try and see how well you do. Anyway, going on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Write each one in standard form. The instructions above number 9, it says write the time in words. Oh, don't forget to use AM or PM. AM is in the morning and PM is at lunchtime and after. I know that here in St. Stan's we have our lunch at about 11 o'clock. Actually a little bit about 11:15 or so. And it's still a.m. when we have our lunch, but at noon, at 12 o'clock noon, that it goes to p.m. and that is until midnight, that it's the p.m. hours. So when we are answering 9 through 12, write a.m. or p.m. after the words. And remember, on the top here, if we look up here again, here are some words to express this time in standard form. Good luck on your worksheet on a quarter hour. I'm looking forward to seeing how well you answer those tomorrow.